What if everything you've been taught about kindness is a lie? What if being good isn't strength, but submission? What if the very things you do to seem like a better person are the same things that quietly break you down? You were told that kindness is a virtue, that being nice is the mark of a good heart, that putting others first makes you strong. But what if none of that is true? What if kindness, the way it's usually taught, is just another form of fear? Fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being seen as selfish. And what if behind every yes you say to someone else, you're actually saying no to yourself? This isn't about being cruel. It's about asking the question most people are too afraid to face. Am I being kind? Or am I just afraid to stop pleasing everyone? Because when kindness becomes automatic, when it's no longer a choice but a reflex, it stops being a gift and starts becoming a prison. You smile when something hurts. You nod when you disagree. You offer help when you're exhausted, and they call you kind. But what they're really seeing is fear. Fear of being disliked, of being seen as difficult, of being alone. So you bend, you shrink, you give, and slowly you disappear. People praise your softness while taking more from you than you can afford to give. And the more you give, the more they expect. Until your worth becomes tied to your usefulness. Your kindness becomes a transaction, unspoken but understood. You'll be good, and they'll keep liking you, but it never stops there. Because the moment you set a boundary, even a small one, the illusion breaks. You're no longer agreeable, no longer easy, no longer what they thought you were. And that's when the truth shows up. Not about you, but about them. They liked you as long as you played the role, as long as your kindness served their comfort. But kindness with boundaries, kindness that says no, kindness that honors your limits, that's not the version they signed up for. Because that kind of kindness makes them face themselves. It forces them to question why they only respected you when you had no voice, why they praised your empathy, as long as it cost you more than it cost them. And maybe that's the real weakness no one talks about. Not your kindness, but your silence. The silence that follows every time your needs are pushed aside. The silence you learned to keep, because speaking would make things complicated, uncomfortable, real. And so you stay quiet, and they keep calling it strength. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not being kind, you're just trying not to disappear completely. They told you to be kind, to be quiet, to be easy to love. Not because they valued your softness, but because it made you easier to control. From a young age, you were praised for your politeness, for not speaking back, for sharing, for smiling, even when it hurt. And you learned. You learned that love is earned through sacrifice, that value is measured by how little space you take up, that saying no means losing everything: attention, acceptance, safety. So you adapted. You became the good one, the agreeable one. You kept the peace by keeping yourself small, and the world rewarded you for it. They called you mature, compassionate, selfless. But what they were really saying was convenient. You were easy to be around because you didn't ask for anything. You were praised not for your strength, but for how well you hid your needs. And every time you gave in, they called it grace. Every time you stayed silent, they called it maturity. They never asked what it cost you, because your suffering made things easier for them. You smoothed over conflict. You absorbed the tension. You apologized when you weren't wrong, just to end the discomfort. And they loved you for it, not because they saw your heart, but because you never made them look at theirs. You became the buffer, the emotional shock absorber in every room, the one who held space for others, even when you were breaking inside. And no one noticed, because you were so good at smiling through it, so practiced at performing peace, you forgot what it felt like to actually have any. You weren't being kind, you were surviving. And after a while, kindness became a habit you couldn't unlearn, a posture you couldn't drop. even when no one was watching, even when you were alone. Because deep down, you weren't being kind to connect. You were being kind to stay safe, to avoid abandonment, to escape conflict, to earn your place in a world that made love conditional. You thought, if I'm good enough, they won't leave. If I'm easy enough, they won't hurt me. If I stay small, I'll be safe. But safety built on self-erasure isn't safety at all. It's a quiet death. And the worst part is, you don't even realize it's happening, because the world keeps rewarding the mask. They say, you're such a light, but you're tired, so tired. Not from loving people, but from abandoning yourself in the name of love. There comes a moment when the mask slips, not because you want it to, but because you can't hold it up anymore. Someone asks how you're doing, and you almost tell the truth. Almost. But the words catch in your throat, not because you don't feel, but because you've forgotten how to let yourself be seen. You hesitate, you smile, and you say, I'm fine. Because being honest would mean admitting that kindness hasn't healed you. It's hollowed you out, that your warmth has become a shield, and you're freezing behind it. That your love has become a currency, and you're always the one paying. And for a second, you wonder, what would happen if I stopped? If I didn't answer every message? If I let someone be disappointed? If I chose myself? Would the world fall apart? Or would I finally come home to myself? But choosing yourself isn't as simple as walking away, because kindness, the kind that erases you, leaves behind a silence you don't know how to fill. Who are you when you're not performing? When you're not making everything okay? When you're not fixing, soothing, proving? You've been the caretaker for so long, you forgot what it means to be cared for. And in that space where the noise dies down, something terrifying happens. You start hearing the voice you buried years ago, the one that remembers, the one that knows what you gave up to be loved. It doesn't shout, it whispers, but it's steady, persistent, unapologetic. It says, you were never too much. You were just in places that asked you to be less. And once you hear that voice, you can't unhear it. It doesn't demand, it doesn't beg, it just tells the truth. The truth you buried under politeness, under people-pleasing, under decades of being good. It reminds you of the moments you bit your tongue when you should have roared, the times you gave when you were already empty, the apologies you whispered when you were the one bleeding, and you start to wonder, was I kind or was I afraid? Did I love them or did I just need to feel needed? Did they care about me or just the version of me that never asked for anything? These questions don't break you, they rebuild you, because real kindness can't grow from fear. It grows from choice, from freedom, from truth. Real kindness doesn't ask you to bleed for it. It doesn't demand silence as proof of love. It doesn't ask you to betray yourself so others can stay comfortable. That's not kindness. That's submission. That's conditioning. That's what you were taught, not what you were born to be, because you weren't born quiet. You weren't born agreeable. You weren't born afraid to disappoint. That was learned, layer by layer, praise by praise, punishment by silence. You adapted, you survived, but now you get to choose, not to stop being kind, but to start being kind to yourself first. Because any kindness that costs you your voice, your energy, your soul, isn't kindness, it's compliance. And you weren't made to comply, you were made to live. So what happens when you stop complying? When you stop smiling to keep the peace? When you let the silence break and the truth spill out? Raw, unedited, loud. Some people will leave. Some will call you selfish, difficult, cold. But those are the ones who only knew you when you were breaking. They loved your silence, not your truth. And their discomfort isn't proof that you're wrong. It's proof that you're changing. And change, real change, always disrupts the systems built on your obedience. But disruption isn't destruction. It's a doorway, a space where something new can begin, something honest, not a version of kindness that costs you your soul, but one that flows from it. Because real kindness doesn't demand your silence. It doesn't require you to bleed just to prove you're good. It's not measured by how much you shrink, but by how much you can stand in your full height and still choose to be gentle. Real kindness begins with truth, with boundaries that protect your heart, not walls that hide your pain, with love that flows freely, not love that is bought by sacrifice. It's the strength to say no without guilt. It's remembering that your value doesn't come from how little you ask, but from how fully you exist. Kindness isn't weakness, but kindness without self-respect is. And you are not here to be anyone's easy version of love. You are here to be real, fully, imperfectly, unapologetically. You are not obligated to be palatable. You are not responsible for making yourself easier to digest. You are not made to fit into the fragile expectations of those too afraid to face their own discomfort. Your kindness is not a currency. Your love is not a debt. Your empathy is not a weakness to be leveraged against you. It's a power that stands rooted even when others try to sway it. A power that says, I will be kind, but not at the expense of my voice. I will be compassionate, but not at the cost of my boundaries. I will love, but not by abandoning myself to do it. Because real love, real kindness, real connection, they don't ask for your disappearance. They ask for your presence, your wholeness, your truth. You don't owe anyone the version of yourself they find most convenient. You don't have to perform your worthiness to be loved. You don't have to trade pieces of yourself for a seat at a table built on conditions. The right people will not love you for your silence. They will love you for your voice. The right people will not stay because you never say no. They will stay because your no makes your yes real. The right people will not ask you to choose between being loved and being whole. They will never make you shrink, dim, break, or bleed just to stay close. And the ones who do, they were never your people. They were just the ones who benefited from the smaller version of you. And it's okay to let them go. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with the quiet strength of someone who has finally remembered. I was never weak for being kind. I was only weak when I forgot to be kind to myself first. Kindness is not the absence of strength. It is the expression of it. The kindest people are not the ones who never say no. They are the ones who have earned their yes. They are the ones who have fought the wars inside themselves and chose love, not because they were too weak to stand alone, but because they were strong enough to. True kindness is fierce. It holds the line. It says, I will meet you with my heart open, but I will not hand it to you to break. I will give, but not to erase myself. I will care, but not at the cost of forgetting who I am. This is the kindness that heals, the kindness that frees, the kindness that does not ask you to disappear, but invites you to expand, to take up space, to be seen, to be real. Because you were never meant to be small, you were meant to be whole. Have you ever said yes just to be loved? When every part of you wanted to say no?